Hello everybody. In this tutorial I want to discuss with you the concept of a confidence interval. What it is, why it is such a useful concept in data analysis, and what the general idea basically behind a confidence interval is. And to start with, let's look at how we make observations. So we usually take a sample. So we make some observations. This is a sample. And this sample is characterized by certain values, by the sample statistics. So this could be the sample mean, the spread of the sample, etc., etc. And this sample is part of a much larger population. The sample represents this population, so the population. This is from which the sample comes. So, for example, I'm looking at the height of all female students in the UK. So that would be my population here. That's the female students in the UK. And I take a sample and I just measure the statistics and measure the height of, let's say, 10 female students, and this would be my sample. And the population is characterized by its parameters. Now, of course, this population, which has the parameters, again, it has parameters like the average height, spread, all sorts of things that it characterizes this population. And it's important, if I, for example, look at the average, there is only one true average. So I can say, on average, in the population, all female students are 176 centimeters. Now, if I look at different samples, I can take another sample here. So that would be sample 2. Sample 2, that was sample 1. And what I'll find is that the statistics, again, characterizes this sample 2. And the statistics might be slightly different, because I might have picked a different group of female students or something like that. And if I take a sample 3, here the statistics might be, again, slightly different from the other two statistics. The average might be slightly different. And this is actually called sampling error. It's not an error, it's just simply uncertainty. Now, what I basically do is, when I take one of these samples, the big problem really is that I usually don't know what my population is. So I don't know, for example, the true average. I have no idea what this true average is, but what I'm trying to do is I say, right, I've got a sample here, and from this sample, from the statistics of the sample, which might include the average, I try to figure out and make an inference what the average of the population might be. And as you can see, I might end up with slightly different estimates for my true and only one population average. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to say, right, based on a sample, the population parameter is exactly and here the emphasis on the word is exactly this and this and this. It doesn't make sense. But what I can say is, based on my samples, based on the sample statistics, I estimate the population parameter to be within a certain range, So I say, right, I have a statistics here. The average is, say, 175 centimeters. And now I say from these 175 centimeters, I estimate that all female students in the UK are between, let's say, 170 to 182 centimeters. That is the average of the population. So that would be the population parameter. That would be the population parameter that I'm trying to estimate. And this range here, this interval, is generally referred to as the confidence interval. I'm fairly confident. Confidence interval that based on my sample statistics, in this case, sample statistics height of this particular sample, the true and one and only population parameter, namely the height, is within this range. I do not say it is exactly 176.357 centimeters. I just simply say I believe that the population parameter height of female students is in this range, within this confidence interval. So that is really the concept of a confidence interval. And depending on the data format, so depending on data format, there are different ways to calculate this confidence interval. And sometimes you see it as a 95% confidence interval. That means I'm pretty sure that the true population mean is somewhere in between. Sometimes you see a 99% confidence interval, which means I'm even more sure that the population interval, that the population mean is within this interval. Sometimes you see a 90% confidence interval, which means I'm not so certain that the true population mean is within this range. So we can give it a different levels of certainty here for the confidence interval, but that is something for another video. So I hope this makes sense and you understand now what is the concept of a confidence interval. It's just simply an estimate from a sample, based on a sample, an estimate based on a sample where the true population parameter might lie. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned.